The way the session is going to run is we're going to start with introductions of everybody on the call, and then we'll end with Segun, after which is going to take us briefly through his career journey so far from medical school into tech and how he became a software engineer currently. And after that, we'll have a question and answer session, after which we also have any other comments or discussions, and then we close. So by about 12-ish, we should be done. So I'm going to start the introduction, and then I'll call on other people to briefly introduce themselves. So I am Ola, a medical doctor, recently completed NYSC. So I'm now a post NYSC medical doctor. I am interested in health policy, health economics, and at the moment I work in the Department of Healthcare Planning with Lagos State Ministry of Health. I am also interested in research and also writing and content development as well. One of the reasons why I started the DWS platform is because while in medical school, I wanted to find out other things to do apart from going into residency. Medical school just seemed like the only thing you could do was either don't do anything medical or just go into residency. And then it just seemed like, how could you have spent, most of us in Nigerian medical school, we spend close to at least 7 years. Just very few people actually spend 6 years. People spend at least 7 to 10 years, and it's like, how you just drop 10 years and you're not going into residency. It's like 1 decade of your life gone, and what are you going to do with your life really? So why I started this, to like shed more light on things we can do outside of typical residency pathway. So this is not necessarily saying you have to not do something healthcare related. It could still be within the healthcare space, as most have seen in some of the previous sessions we've had. It could still be within the healthcare space, but not necessarily in the theaters or consulting. And also, it can be completely outside of healthcare space, like we had someone in finance earlier this year. So it's just to shed more light and let doctors know that there are other things you can do just in case you don't want to continue with the typical pathway. So I'll go on to Kunle Yusuf now. So you just introduce yourself, your name, what you currently do, and what you hope to get out of this session, and we'll run with that. So Kunle, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Olakunle Yusuf. I'm a medical doctor. I finished NYC late November last year. No, October last year. Yes. So, Kumi, give me respect. And yeah, I currently work in an NGO. I work as a treatment support, basically administration in HIV programming. Yeah, basically program management of HIV programming. I'm part of the team. And what else? Okay, yeah. I'm interested in health system strengthening with use of data to, basically strengthen the health system. So I'm kind of interested in using data to strengthen the health system, not just policy and economics, although I'm interested in that too. Another interest of mine is equity investments in terms of stocks, foreign exchange, markets, and all that. What else could be?
I don't know.
As in, what else
Yeah,
do you want me to talk about?
what would you like to get out of this session?
Okay, yeah. So this basically the old Doctor Without Stats thing. It's an avenue for me to get different perspectives from people, from doctors that are doing other things apart from medicine. If you're on the journey of not doing your residency, the cliche thing everybody does, it becomes what's it called? It becomes fearsome, I guess. where you think you are not doing the right thing. You have this constant fear of, what if it goes wrong? What am I wasting my life? Am I doing something? So this gathering gives you the opportunity to meet people doing other things apart from medicine, and it opens your eyes to other opportunities apart from clinical medicine, regardless of whatever you decide to do at the end. So, basically I'm just trying to get more perspective from people and see other things I can do apart from clinical medicine. Thank you.
Thank you to you. Similarly, can we have an introduction, please? Hi, Simi.
Yeah, good morning.
Mm,
Good morning.
Good morning, Simi.
Hello. Yeah, this is Agbola Oluwatimileyin. I'm still a student, a dental student in OAU. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still a dental student in OAU. Like, I'm hoping to explore the field of tech. I'm still new, sha, but I just decided to join to gain more knowledge and stuff like that. Do you get?
Thank you, Simi.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah.
Simi. All yours. Can you please
The
introduce?
next hello?
Hello, Simi.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I said thank you very much. Well, moving on to the next question.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Uh, Hi, Oyo. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Okonkwo Oyo. I'm a medical doctor. Part of the latest set of post NYC doctors. So, unlike Kunle, I'm still fresh. So please hire me. I'm looking for work. On a more serious note, I work in an HMO at the moment in wellness and communications. A little backstory there. So apart from being a doctor, I have had an avid interest in public health, to be specific, health financing and economics for a while since my 500 level days. So I've worked in about two HMOs now. This is my second HMO, and I also have um, a gift when it comes to writing. So in a way, my current position marries a lot of my interests, writing, my interest in health financing, as well as the fact that I'm a doctor as well. So it's an interesting spot to be in, not as exciting as it sounds. But I'm here as well to hear how a doctor became a tech bro. I know tech bros have money, so it's not a field that is totally cancelled. Just that I know that coding and all those things happen to be very, very demanding. So I'm curious about how Dr. Segun managed to pull it off, because I don't think his journey just started today. So I look forward to today's session and to learn one or two things from his own journey. Yes. I covered everything, right? You're muted.
Oh, yes. Toby. Toby, can you please introduce yourself? Oh, yeah, thank you. You covered everything.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Toby. Can you hear me? I'm a medical student, Unilag, and also a front-end developer. This is my first time joining Doctors Without Stats. I saw the link somewhere and just decided to join because I saw that Mr. Segun Ola is going to be on the session and he's a tech bro. So I decided to come on and learn from the boss.
Thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll move on to Dr. Segun now. And after his introduction, we'll just take us quickly through his journey to becoming a tech bro. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You'll hear me, right? Okay. So, as you all know, my name is Segun. I'm a software engineer. Uh, my journey to software engineering started after housemanship, actually, and that was in 2016. Yes. No, no, 2015 actually. Yeah, it was in 2015, August 2015 when I started learning the code. Um, I like most of you went through medical school, and I don't have like a grand, inspiring story. It was just partly curiosity, partly boredom, partly um, should I just say in job insecurity. Uh, yeah, and a lot of boredom. So like some of you said, the traditional route is you get out of school, you get to do you get to do residency. You'll know that it's basically like trying to get into another school. Like you have you do the primaries. If you pass primaries, then you find an institution where you're going to work at, and or the primaries expire, you have to do it again, and you and then it's just a journey of going on and on, long hours in circles, and um plenty of work. Let's just say that. Now, this is not to say it's not good work. It is excellent work. It's great work, but like the conditions are not very motivating. First of all, pay isn't great. Secondly, facilities aren't good. Institutions are rife with corruption that doesn't even protect the doctors or health workers. So thinking about that, they just wasn't very encouraging for me, and I needed a way to just escape that, and that was where I that was how I started coding. I so coding wasn't like something I wanted to do for work. It was just something I did, to pass out time and not to feel bad about myself. Because when you spend hours watching movies, you feel bad that, oh, I could have done something useful in my life, but then there's nothing useful to do with your life. So so you just feel bad, and it's a cycle, right? So I decided to learn something that was useful, something that was first of all mentally tasking, something that I could say, oh yeah, this is what I did after spending a lot of hours on it. I could still say, okay, yeah, I built this form, or I built this page, or I solved this algorithm problem, or I wrote the script that automates something not very useful, but it still gave me that sort of vanity. So that was where my journey of programming, that was how my journey of programming started. And yeah, and I have been doing this professionally since um, 2017. I decided to stop medical practice in 2017 and move into software engineering. Got my first full-time job as a software engineer in 2017, and I've been at it since. And it's it's been rewarding, at least for the kind of person I am, for the kind of things I wanted. Like it gives I had a list of priorities, right? And I had to ask myself what were more important to me. And like I don't know what was it, or you said that it's scary when you're doing things outside of regular, the laid out path, the so-called blessed path, and you're asking if you're wasting your time or just wasting your life, and you do not know whether you should be doing this. And I felt that so many times. I remember once in a boot camp to get my first job, and my computer went bad, and so I couldn't solve the problems for the day, and everyone was jamming their keyboards, working, um, building stuff, and I was just looking at myself like, bro, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in a hospital? I was seeing people with masters in computer engineering, computer science, electrical engineering, And then there were some whiz kids who didn't even have any first degree, who never went to, who chose never to go to university, and were at the program since they were teenagers. And I was just there feeling like a odd duck, like, shouldn't you be going back? Shouldn't you be where you belong? You spent years to become this. What are you doing here? But so yeah, that's a general feeling, and that's something that you should um it shouldn't be like, I wouldn't say you should ignore that completely, because while because it could be a reality check to ask yourself, to again re-examine your motivations. Why am I doing this? And then ask yourself, how valid are your reasons for doing it? So I, at those times, I would remind myself of why I was doing what I was doing, what I had prioritized in my life, the things that are important to me. And I realized that a career change was in the best direction to help me achieve that. So I had to do the move. Um, Give me a second. I said I was expecting a delivery, so I think they're calling. Give me a second. I'll be off for a bit.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Shadi is going to be back. I think said he had a delivery coming this morning, so he just wants to start that out, and he will be back shortly. And at the moment, we are just about six on this call. So if you can actually remind any of your friends that may have registered for this session, maybe you could just send them a reminder to join in and start. Hi, for me, welcome. We've actually started the session, but Dr. Segun had to step out for a bit to um, resolve something. So we'll be back shortly and then we'll continue. Hi, Toby. Welcome to today's session. We have actually started, for Dr. Shagun had to step out for a bit to resolve something, so he will be joining us back very shortly. So thank you for
I
joining
think
us.
just a suggestion. While we wait for Dr. Segun, we can also exchange, say, experiences or how it has been so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you actually. So we could just do that. Would you like to start, Kristen?
No, ladies first.
Wow. All right. All right. So as I said earlier when we started, yes, Simi, there's going to be a recording of the session and it will be sent out after. Oh, okay. So Dr. Segun is back. So
Dr. Sh-
all our plan can work on it. All right, welcome back.
What was Oyo's plan?
Oh, we just wanted to share the stories while waiting for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So back to, where was I? I think I was saying that you might get a question of, oh, I hope I'm not wasting my time here. And while some might tell you that discard that, just ignore that, I think it's good to ask yourself those questions. Um, to to be sure you're like there is this thing in like every creative experiences, right? The imposter syndrome. I know as a doctor you've experienced it before. Like, oh, am I? Do I do I belong here? Um, am I sure I'm not going to kill this patient and stuff like that? Yeah, yeah, you experience it, and then at that point you remind yourself, well, why you're there, what your motivation, and maybe that's why you go and spend nights to read up, to research, to check up what other people are doing, other institutions are doing, or why you just try to reinforce your knowledge to ensure that you have the right thing. Maybe even discuss with other doctors or other people in the field or senior people to reassure yourself that you know what you need to know and you're doing what you need to do. So even when you're stepping outside the expected line, that I think that pinch of doubts to ask yourself, am I what am I doing here? Sometimes it's not all negative. Sometimes it can ask you can help you reevaluate where you are. Otherwise, you might be experiencing that. I think there's this one other notes phenomenon, the Dunning Kruger, where you think you're all you think you're all there, but you really just know nothing or just know a little bit, or like I think cynically put, people will call you a local champion because you do not know what you don't know, right? So that sense of self doubt is quite useful. It's quite important, and and many times I've had to ask myself, oh, do I belong here? Um, what in 10 years' time would I regret this decision that I made? And before taking the leap, I asked myself that question exactly. So while I said I started coding in 2015, I I actually wrote my first line of code in 2007 in a cyber cafe while just scrolling through Nairaland back then. And I was a teenager, and I would just saw this idea of creating something out of code, and it wasn't very lofty or great, and but I did something. I did create like a page with some text on it, awful looking, whenever I think about it. But it gave me the idea that this was something possible. That was the first time I knew that someone could write code. Yeah, I knew that computers were programmed with code and all, but I didn't know anyone who did that, and I didn't know. And I always thought that I had to be like crazy, super smart. And so it was just in the back burner in my mind that okay, this is something that everyone should learn to do. And then I knew that it was something important for in every aspect of life, right? Like the reason programming is important today is simply because it's just I would put it like an evolution in our society, just the way writing was important some years ago. Now I don't mean that everyone has to be a programmer, just like everyone isn't a writer, but everyone's got some idea of how to communicate some information, right, through writing and all. So this was my idea then. I might be wrong, or we might actually, as such, might actually evolve to the point now even we, as a matter of fact, it's probably going to evolve to the point where most people wouldn't need to program because AI will be able to like do the things we want and custom make code for each of our needs. So yeah, but at that time, that was my idea that okay, everyone needs to know how to do this thing, even if it's just for fun, for personal need. Uh, so that was why I picked it up, right? And but then fast forwarding um, almost 10 years in the future, because from 2007 to 2015, in 2015, I finally chose to learn to code and understand programming. Then in 2017, I decided to jump ship and start um, a full-time role as a software engineer. Now, that question was there. What are you doing? Are you sure you're not going to regret this? You're on your own. And then I asked myself, I don't know what could have happened if I had been coding since 27 since 2007. I don't know where I would be. I had these are just coulda, shoulda, would have, right? And then so I asked myself, would I want to in 10 years time will come, another 10 years will come, and I'll ask myself, could I, should I, would have programmed or switched careers or not? And I was like, the real failure would have been never trying to do the things I really wanted to do because I was feeling like I had sunk too much cost into this thing, the sunk cost fallacy. I've been doing this so long, so I have to keep doing it. Um, so I so that's what that was for the final motivation, and that's why I was sorry, mumbling. That was the final motivation to actually switch careers and make the move and say, if I perish, I perish, right? And that goes back to what I was saying earlier when I said when you have that knowing feeling that do I know what I'm doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? It should help you ask yourself again, why am I really doing what I'm doing? Is this the only way for me? Like I told you, like I said, I had a couple of priorities, right? Certain things that I wanted to do, that I wanted my life to look like, and I didn't see it happening as a clinical practitioner, especially while I lived in Nigeria or Africa. And so at, at least not in like I didn't think I could have the kind of life I wanted in um I wanted to live until I had spent like 10 extra years going through the motions, going through all the requirements. And I didn't want to wait for that. I didn't believe that in life should be lived always waiting, looking forward to the result, hoping that the end goal at the end I will have be happy. And I want to do what I want right now. I want to be happy right now, and I want to be happy every day, and at the end still be happy. And I was hoping, like, how much of a compromise can I do? What can I do to achieve that? And that was the way that this was it for me. Now happiness is different from everyone, right? Some people, the idea of going to surgery or being in the ER, that is the drug, that is the happiness. And for such people, 100%, that's where they should be. For me, it wasn't that. Like, I liked, actually my favorite part of medicine was actually um, in the consultation, where I actually made the patient feel like a person, not a disease. That was like the most enjoyable part for me. Um, the the godlike feeling of surgery wasn't really never really hit me that much. And well, so basically I looked at the things that I wanted, the things that were important to me, how I felt, and I said, how do I achieve that? So I made it like a plan to achieve that. Now, was I sure that my plan will work? No. Did it mean that after years I could be starting over from square one? Yes. But I didn't want to wait so much time before I found out that I didn't want time to pass and still be saying, oh, I wish I had made the move then. No, if I failed, it should be because I tried, not because I was too afraid to try. And that was it for me. And so this is not supposed to be some motivational talk, so but that was it for me. Then that was how I moved. Career journey, it's been rewarding. It's so annoying that um in Nigeria someone can pick up a skill on the side and in a matter of 3 years make more money than a doctor who spent the last 10 years trying to get the skill and I spent the same 3 years working on the job. It really pisses me off because yes, you said so. I'm not very super rich, but I'm not very rich. I don't know if I'm not rich, but I would. It's safe to say I make more money than you all make from your job as medical doctors, unless as is than your degree commands, and that pisses me off because it shouldn't be so. It's an essential role, and it's not a kind of role you can feel overnight. It takes years of experience, of dedication and work, and it takes so much hours of work. Like I I do much less work now than I used to, like physically exerting. As a doctor, I used to work 100, 120 hours work weeks sometime. Here, if I go beyond 60, it's going to be a frown. Like it's if I go beyond 60 hours a week, it's considered that I am in an unhealthy workspace. So yeah, that pisses me off. But yeah, do I hate the fact that I'm making that much? No, I just hate the fact that you are making less. So um well, I don't have any specific talking points. So if there are questions you would like to ask more specifically, then maybe I will take it from there.
All right. Thank you very much for the talk so far. I would like to ask, does anybody have a question? And if you have questions, it's actually be nice if you can unmute and talk as opposed to typing in the chat box, just um, so that we can have more interaction. So, Kunle, can you unmute and ask your question, please? By
Okay.
like,
Um, Hello, Dr. Segun. Thank you for
Hi.
being on here with us today. It's really good thing to have someone in the tech industry here. And basically, first off, I want to ask, where exactly are you? Are you still in Nigeria?
Yes, I'm in Nigeria in
You're
Lagos.
still in Nigeria. Okay, now this is going to be
Yes.
interesting because, sorry, um, how is the tech space like in Nigeria? I don't know anybody in tech basically, but I just understand how is it? Do you see yourself leaving this country anytime soon because you're in the tech space or what else?
Um, yeah, I think I might be leaving sometime soon. Personally, I have like this high level of inertia where I don't like to change environments or move around. I really hate traveling. It took me a week, no, it took me 2 weeks to move from one room to another in a house. So I am that kind of very opposed to movement. But but why would I want to move out of the country? Nigeria, or the political landscape is just not very favorable for anyone, right? So if you want to leave, if you had the opportunity to leave, you probably would take it. Because simple Nigeria, the current political landscape is not encouraging. It's not helpful. It's a very difficult place to do business. Sorry, dry throat. It's a very difficult place to do business. It's a difficult place um, to see a future, especially um, if you've lived elsewhere, if you've seen how life could be elsewhere. Because like while we have a dream for greater Nigeria, it almost seems like you can do more from outside, which is also maddening. Like why? But another reason would like to go out is the ability to command more money. Simple. Um, to be able to earn more pay and live in comfort and be able to take care of the people I want to take care of. For example, if you're in Nigeria and you're making 500,000 a month, um, there's something you can do with that. But if you're living elsewhere and you're doing the same work um and you're earning $3,000 after tax for the same work, or 3,000 euros, depending on where you're living though. But um you still have more money to help your family, even if you can only save 20% of that, or you can only get 20% of that. At the end of the day, when you compare how much it is that you could reserve and save for yourself or for your family in Nigeria, that's still a lot more. Even though that might not be very good money where you're in code where you are, but where you move to, but you could still help more people that way. You could still have greater impact because if you're living in Nigeria and you're earning, let's say, okay, 500K, and uh, you're able to send maybe 100K to your family, because if you live in Lagos, that 500K is gone. So, but you are able to send your brother, your mother 100K and help them. But if you were, but that's just like, how much is that in euros? 200. And so you could be able to send 500 euros if you add 2,000 with you after tax. So that's a reason to want to go out, and that's actually making more impact, because one of the reasons we're the way we are in this country is because like there is a lot suppressing the economic power of people. And when people are not economically empowered, they will do whatever it is they need to get just scrape by. And it is one of the reasons your political or people, you've seen politicians say, hey, we will pay them for their votes and they will vote for us. Like, that is insane. How could you like say it in a political campaign publicly? Oh, they're against us. Don't worry. All we need is money. Like, this is a politician saying it on live, like live. It was recorded and was, and not there's no repercussion for that. The reason is simple. People have bigger problems than to chase him. Examples: survival, not dying that day. It's like, case in point, people complained about people we rose up against police brutality in Nigeria a couple of months ago, right? And still ongoing. And then some people said, well, the people in the north, like in the core north, were not involved, and that, because they don't care about your causes. But that's not the truth. The reason is that they have other problems. Police brutality is like very low on their priority. They are trying to not die from Boko Haram. They are trying to not die from other problems. So it's not that important to them. So and if you take away that kind of level of problem from them, then they can focus on other things. Like, you can focus on police brutality today because you were not being directly ravaged by other problems, like more important, more like you're not suffering bigger problems. So I just use it as an analogy that if you live here and you just leave a certain level of problems behind, then you can face some other things. Have you noticed that a lot of people doing stuff? Not everyone, but a lot of doing people making changes in the ecosystem, in the climate, especially in the tech ecosystem, business world. Many of them have had outside experience, and then they've come here to bring what they've got from out there down here. Even some of your doctors had to go travel outside to get some experiences, some to do some courses, specialize in some fields, then come back and use that in here. So the idea of traveling out for the first time is actually being quite, um, what's the word? Um, it's seeming more like a reality for me. Yeah, more like something I would like to do.
Okay, okay. Thank you. That's great. And sorry, I have one more question. Basically, I wanted to ask about the tech space and health. What, I think a lot of people are, or quite a number of people who will listen to this recording later, are interested
Mhm.
in merging tech with health in some kind of way, some kind of capacity. And
Okay.
do you have like an idea of occupations like that people can do? And just the whole idea of how it is in Nigeria at the moment, the health tech space.
Uh, okay, so let's see. Health tech. there are a few, the tech company, the tech industry is a bit young, and so a lot of things are happening, a lot of things are in flux. But tech itself doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists to solve needs. Like tech does not exist for tech. Tech exists for business, for medicine, for healthcare, for whatever other field. That's why you have tech. So, which is why the way I said writing. Writing doesn't exist for the sake of text. It exists for the sake of communication in every other aspect of your life. So, um, areas where you like, so many of the things you might want to do in tech and healthcare, we're at an interesting point of interesting place where they are being created, like where they're not like there's I don't think that there's a huge market yet. I think the market is starting up. So if you're going in there, you're going to be one of the people setting up the foundations and pillars to build it. Now, does that mean there's no health tech? Of course not. I've worked on health projects. Like one of my first roles in jobs was building a medical record system. So or was part being a part of the team that built a medical record system. So yeah, there is that. There are people working in health insurance. Um, for example, think about an health insurance company. Okay, for example, Reliance HMO. They have like a tech department, people building the tech. Um, but then again, tech is beyond. I'm a bit biased to the core technology, but tech is beyond coding. It's beyond technology stacks. There's a lot of things I have to go around it. For example, design, because I could write the best code in the world, but if you cannot, if it doesn't look at, just if it doesn't look good to you, if it doesn't look sensible to you, um, if it doesn't,
So
for
your
example,
need.
yeah, if it doesn't help you solve your needs, like even if it solves the need under the hood, but you don't, but then there's that layer of access. How do I use it to solve my needs? So that is the place of design, user experience design, user experience research, user interface design, and that is not code. That's design and a whole different aspect. Well, you might have the smartest developers, but they can't manage anything. They cannot prioritize anything. They can't get anything done. You have project managers, product managers to ensure that things get shipped. If you left me, I've got I've got site. If you meet any developers, they've got projects that have been abandoned in their GitHub repository on their computer. Several one of them. They start a new idea today and then they abandon it 2 months later or 3 weeks later. They have an idea and then in their mind it keeps on expanding and expanding, and they have so many things they want to do but they can't do them. So at the end of the day, nothing gets shipped. You need people to ensure that that doesn't happen for real products. So,
Okay.
and that's your tech. So you've got product managers, you've got product owners, you've got people who test it. Okay, I wrote code, but yeah, how am I sure that it works for every use case? Was I could have been blindsided. I'm not seeing some certain things. For example, I am an advocate for accessibility and digital accessibility, which is a bit hypocritical living in Nigeria because we don't care about accessibility for anybody. But but yeah, the part what accessibility means is in my point of interest is ensuring that people who have disabilities can use software just like you and I. That we build software in a way that they can. For example, a blind person should be able to use Zoom. A deaf person should be able to use Zoom. How? Well, that's what I do. How I try. That's what I advocate for and try to teach people how to build in a way that makes their lives easier. If I had Alzheimer's or I had like a if I had like anything that even affected my nerve coordination, I should still be able to use products because I still have needs, right? Just like every other person, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's something I try to do. But like when you're building products to solve these issues or considering solving these issues in your product, you need a whole team of people to help you get there, and not everyone has to code. Not everyone has to design. Not everyone has to be a product manager, but these are all things you could do. And there are still a lot of other things around it. As a matter of fact, you've built something. How do you get it in the hands of people? Then you got
Okay.
marketers, tech, digital marketers, and all the kind of other stuff. Excuse me. So in the health space itself, like all of these things are needed in the health space. But then again, you, you um like I said, you will be building the foundations. For example, there are people building online dispensaries. There are people building online consultation platforms where you can talk to a doctor. But then there are limitations, like you can't do a physical examination over Zoom. You can, and there are certain prescriptions you can't make given the limited interaction. You are in a place. We are in a place where we can actually begin to think about solutions to those problems. So we don't have those issues. We don't have those products on ground. But who knows? You might be the one to do to figure out how best you can walk around that and give all around healthcare outside the hospital through tech.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your reply. Basically, for me, I think one of the major places that is going to pioneer tech in the health industry is the um, I think big data, basically, because and I'm actually kind of interested in data, like I mentioned earlier. So I think that's where I see things starting off from. Basically, there was this thing that happened in Mozambique, I think, on HIV programming. So there's this thing we called loss to follow up. That means probably a patient that has not been regular on treatment, or the last pickup drug for the patient was more than 28 days. So basically, the whole idea is what they did is they developed what's it called, a machine learning algorithm, or basically AI, to help determine patients that are potentially going to be lost to follow up. When they did that, they get a list of patients, they get a list of clients like every month, and they now do preemptive follow-up on these clients. At the end of the study, basically, you notice that their loss to follow-up reduced. Reduction in loss to follow-up basically leads to retention of clients, leading to viral suppression, and ultimately leading to reduction in the burden of HIV in their community. That was the idea. So when I talk about big data, that's what I'm thinking about. Thinking of things, thinking of ways to use data. And I think that's one of the best things to do, because at this point in Nigeria, or that we are right now, there are a lot of communities, especially in the north, that, it is not like the south side, even in the south, basically, or in the west. It is not like that, that it is so bad. It is really, really bad that you see some people and you begin to wonder, did these people actually go to any healthcare school, any medical school, anything like that? You know, you see the number of patients, the kind of patients that come. A lot of them are quite uneducated, or sorry, forgive my language. They have limited education for some of them, and they would not be able to use these big tech innovations that are going to come in from somewhere. So the basic thing we can do for them, I think, is using data to make their lives easier. Basically, for instance, analyzing the amount of patients you have in the kind of patients you see in your community. If you analyze the kind of patients you see in your community, you can provide a better service coverage, basically to understand the where you need to cool down on. For instance, if in this part of my community, or you have like a up spoke system, basically where the tertiary institutes and the government institutes and primary health centers, you basically have an idea of the categories of diseases you see more in that community, you know, and you use that data to increase your service coverage, focusing on those data. Not like you're neglecting the others, but I think that way it is more efficient to what's it called, allocate your human resource to that side, know what you need, and better like which things am I using? Okay, so basically better treat patients and satisfy their needs. And those are just little ideas of what I think. That's why I'm just thinking um, maybe big data is like a very, very good entry point that's going to be giving rise to other parts. Because at this moment, I think Nigeria needs an overhaul of its health system. Basically, we need a very big health system strengthening in
All
this
right.
Nigeria. That's just
Yeah,
my idea.
I couldn't agree with you more because everything you said is right and very necessary. But we also have to be practical, right? Like Nigeria needs an old overall of the health system. But if I were to ask you, how confident are you that that is going to happen anytime soon? The answer is probably not very confident.
Not
So
very confident. Not
so
very
so
confident.
this is a problem across Africa, not just Nigeria. As a matter of fact, across the world, but it's more or like it's stronger in Africa. Like the need is stronger in Africa. And there's a company called Ilium Health. They're new. They build like and I think they're like a medical record system too. Well, not just medical, but not but the I think the I don't really know much about the business model, but I think the bigger play is to be able to have that data and be able to do the analysis on the fly because like they're sort of like from what I gathered when listening to one of the founders, it seemed like there was it's also like a data warehouse for health, health, healthcare, health information, and all that stuff. So, how best do you get that? How do you get that information? Through medical records, what a doctor is saying to his patient, and this is where you might not be able to provide tech that the patient will use, but you can provide tech that a doctor will use. I still find that many of you, if you've worked in a private hospital, you know that they still use paper. We're not even going to talk about the government hospitals, but private hospitals, they still use paper to take patient consultation, take records information. Then they transfer some of that to their electronic service. If we one thing I think could further improve that the experience is if we could provide not just software but hardware that makes it easy to take down medical records straight to electronics that works offline and syncs back online when through to the warehouse and can be retrieved from any um, center anywhere to get patients on records. I think that would help improve that data you're talking about because now we can get that data and we can analyze it and we can know like where is this disease commoner when for example if you had an outbreak and you're trying to point out the source like currently the idea is the we depend on a doctor um informing the infectious disease unit like and you know how that process all goes it's usually manual you send a letter or something I think the last time I checked so horrible or one of the biggest problems I think if I wanted to solve a healthcare problem this is just my own personal bias it's not probably not the best one to solve but this is what I've hated the most is transferring patient care from one hospital to another the fact that you have to go get a case notes bind it up and then ship it to another hospital. You get the information in the case notes and then ship it to another hospital for them to do that. And the patient has to keep going back and forth to ensure that they have that information. Otherwise, their management has to start from zero in the next
Honestly,
hospital.
it is really sad. Supply
I've
chain
done it.
is in shambles right now, man.
I've done it in. I've done it as a doctor. I hate it. It keeps me up at night. If I have the time or the money or the zeal to solve something, I will build a system that makes that go away. But then again, it's not always the tech. Sometimes it's just policy that you need. Like, for example, what policy backs, what policy controls who can have access to patient records and when and for how long. For example, if I sent a job application to Sweden, the company has my CV but they need my permission to hold the CV. Otherwise, they have to delete it from their system. And that permission is not eternal. It's expires after a specific time, I think about 18 months. If they do not hire you, they have to delete your CV from their system after 18 months, unless you unless you notify them that you want them to keep holding it for on, and that's just CV. But it's a policy, it's legislation in those countries to ensure that that controls how people's information is managed and handled. And we saw some of that in the GDPR that has made a lot of companies update the way they handle use personal data. Um, so to achieve some of these goals, we will need some health policy changes, some information policy changes, and that it's to enable the tech work, to enable the tech to advance. So that in itself is health tech, but not tech. You understand? That's even law. That's something else we could do to advance healthcare using tech, but depends on law. So it's a wide array of things that need to be done. But
Okay.
I guess we could just solve the little we can solve, and maybe that will be what will motivate other aspects to help expand our solutions. I don't know if all yours raising his hand. I can see an icon,
Yeah, yeah.
hand
Already.
icon. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So my question is, I was listening to when you were describing your journey, and I remember there was a very Nigerian phrase you used. I think something about if I perish, I perish, something like that. Uh, yes, I think everyone gets to that point. So I'm curious, did you at any point have a, a backup plan of sorts? Like, okay, if this goes south, I will do this. I'm looking at it from my own perspective. Like you said, the something caused the bias in a way. Like you put in so much into becoming something. So if you are going to throw it away, or if you're going to walk away from it,
Uh,
did you
yeah.
do you have any backup plan? I think that's okay.
The backup plan was medicine. Like
Ah,
so,
really?
so, so, so the backup plan was if if I do this tech thing and I realized it wasn't for me, and or I hated it, or maybe I ended up hating it. Like I just realized, okay, I don't like the environment, I don't like the kind of work I'm doing, I don't get fulfilled from it. Maybe I thought I would be fulfilled, but I'm not fulfilled. I could go back to doing medicine, right? um which was a thing because I already had the degree. Again, I already have the degree, I already have a license. Maybe I haven't renewed it in a while, so I might need to take some exams to I don't even know the process anymore. I hope never to find out. But but yeah, backup plan was go back to do what I already did, right? And this is a good thing. When I said that, when you begin to feel that way, you need to ask yourself some real questions. Like when you feel like, do I belong here? Question again is, okay, if I don't belong here, what else can I do? This is something I find in a lot of young people that if they didn't get a university education, which their parents made them get, they probably couldn't do anything ever. Like they have no skills, nothing. They have no employable skills. I don't know if you've ever tried helping someone write a CV, like an average Nigerian. I don't like to say that, but like an average young person around here, if you try to help them write a CV to get their first job, you end up realizing they don't have skills. They've not invested in themselves in any way beyond going to school. And many people do not end up graduating with professional courses like ours that assume that okay, you are qualified to do certain things. Many people get a job and they don't know what to do on day one, or well, nobody knows what to do on day one, um but yeah, they don't have a skill, they don't have a degree that backs them up and says they deserve a particular job, right? So, um so for example, someone who did, let's say, fishery is a good stuff, right? It's a good degree if you intend to work in fish farming and all, or related to agriculture. But if you decide to step outside of that, or as we know, many people in Nigeria are studying courses that they don't really intend to practice. They are just doing it because we've got to go to school, right? It's part of the upbringing. You've got to do something. There's this idea, they say get the pali. The certificate is
Yeah.
elevated beyond the skill, even though the certificate is supposed to be a certification that you have certain skills. We have elevated the certificate over the skill it's supposed to be backing up. So that might be, so when you have that question, okay, what if this doesn't work? Then that might be a place to ask yourself, what is it that I am? What skills do I have? What can I do? Do you understand? What value do I bring? And that might be the place where you and this is the place where you said you sometimes go ask, meet people in the area you are in, or people who are at this level where you aspire to be, and then you might, that might be area where you get this confirmation that, okay, yeah, you're on the right track. It happens to everyone like this, and yes, it might not pay out in the immediate term, but on the long term, yes, it will. For example, when I took my first job, I took a pay cut. I was earning like, my salary went down to like 60% of what it was before. My first software engineer salary was less than, was like 60% of my um salary as a doctor. But it was something I was willing to do because I knew that there was, and especially the company I was working with, I knew there was a career path, right? I knew my I, I I knew that I could grow, and I knew the industry I could grow to, because I took that I took that for the opportunity to grow. Yeah, and it wasn't like a backdoor opportunity. The company had a clear cut career growth. It's not the MD feels like he should promote you. No, it's like there were KPIs, there are expected things you should be able to do, and you would know where you fall in that ladder because you can see what is expected. It was clear cut, well defined. So I knew, okay, I was going here, and in a number of years, I was able to get to pretty comfortable earning and doing work I liked. And then after that, moved on to a new to was got some confidence to be able to like move on to bigger problems, to bigger challenges. So yes, backup plan. You might not have now. Everyone here is a doctor or going study medicine or so. So yeah, you probably have a backup plan to practice medicine, right? Or even if you want to drop out of medical school, just for the moment, you could just defer your course, right? I think there's this thing, you could go to your senate and say, I'm going to defer for like a couple of years and come back. And if things work out well and you realize you don't want to come back, you don't come back. But if things don't work out well, you still got that. You don't have to go start from scratch again. The truth is, I don't think it will be necessary if you're doing something that provides value to people and provides you happiness and a sense of worth. But it's, it gives you that confidence, that that false confidence that you've not thrown everything away, and that you're not going to crash and burn. At least you have a safety net of sorts. So, and that can actually be enough to actually keep you going, knowing that, okay, yeah, I can take risks now because I know that no matter what, I'm still going to come back to this. I could still fall down to this. I'm not going to crash and burn. So yeah, it's okay to have safety nets. Okay to have backup plans. But if you're going forward, go forward. Don't and one thing you have to understand, that it will take time, right? Anything worth doing is worth doing well. Like, this was the thing I told myself. I said it took me about 7 years to become a doctor. It took me, and then it was going to take me more and more years to become like a consultant and practice doing whatever it is I wanted to do. I said, so why should you think that you will become the kind of software engineer you want to be overnight? It will take some time. So I give it the time. I'm still giving it the time. So, yeah, there's that. And look at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? You're on mute.
All for questions. Okay, so one question. Does any other person have a question? Because I want to.
Yes.
I think Martins.
Okay, Martin. Martin, thank you. Apart from Martin, is there any other person with a question?
Yeah,
Okay, Toby,
I
I
have a
guess.
question, Toby.
Right, so Martin and then Toby were actually outside of our time, but I guess a lot of people have questions to ask and so many things, so definitely can still go on. That time, just let you
Yeah, that's all right. I'll take that questions.
know. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ola. Please, sorry, I came late. I don't know if you've talked about this, but I want to know how did you get to learn about this software engineering? Do you take time off medicine, then you go back to learning, or do you learn along while still practicing medicine? So, like, what would you recommend for
Okay.
one to
Um,
do if you want to learn that?
First of all, Martins, are you a doctor or a student?
Doctor.
Okay. So yeah, that's well, either way it's challenging, right? So for me, I started learning to code after my housemanship. So and there are a lot of resources. I stumbled a lot in the dark. Um, and I use free resources because I was cheap. I'm still cheap. So I it took a so it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? For me, I wasn't trying to I wasn't trying to switch careers at the time. I was just learning an extra skill. It was that thing where you ask yourself, what can I do outside of this? Like I said, if I you know if I couldn't for any reason practice medicine again, what would I do with my life? And that was the question I asked myself then. And I was like, okay, what can you do really well? Most of the things I could do well required that I put myself in uncomfortable positions, for example, leadership and all. And while I could, because of the kind of person I am, I didn't really enjoy doing that. So I used to do graphic designs in school. So I said, okay, I could be a graphic designer, but I probably won't earn as good money as I wanted easily. And I probably also wasn't going to feel satisfied because there's this, for like some people love the graphic arts. I don't think I was that good at it, but I could make stuff and people were willing to pay me for it. So I didn't feel like I wanted to, and that was something I would be happy doing for a long time. So I decided to learn to code. And how did what I would do was code, just give it assign a block of time to it. It's like if you want to work out, you don't try to you don't try to slot in exercise into your schedule. No, you create a schedule around your workout time. That always keeps that workout time open. That's how you, if you intend to lose weight or intend to build muscle, that's how you do it. So I decided to so after learning for a while and I decided I wanted to go forward with this, I wanted to make, get like professional level with this. I had to cut out my schedule around that, which meant I was doing there was a time I didn't get a full-time job as a doctor. I only got part-time gigs, pick up shift a couple of shifts here, a couple of shifts there. At that point I knew I think I wanted to do this. I wanted to make this switch, but I didn't think I was at employable yet with this thing I was doing as a hobby. You understand? So I cut down on my um shifts that I was taking so that I could focus more time to learn to read up on software engineering, to code, to build stuff. And yeah, I couldn't switch immediately because I needed to feed myself. Now I needed to take care of number one business. So yeah, that was where I did it. But prior to that, I had been spending time coding on my own, just for fun, leisurely. Spend 2 hours here, 2 hours there. If I was home on the weekend, spend a couple of hours. So that had been there. But when I really wanted to like go full time and say, okay, this is what I want to do, I cut down on. I basically scheduled my work around it. So if you want to make a jump, and it's the same anything else you want to do, you want to be a product manager, you want to take some courses online and all that stuff, you probably would have to have a block of time, not when it's convenient, but like you would have to like cut down on other things. Maybe it's dinner with friends, going out at night, if you can do those kind of things. If you say, okay, I want to have 9 to 12 midnight as my personal study period, you know what you do? You basically say nothing else comes into that time. I don't work into that time. I don't do other things to that time. And it's not particularly special. I know medicine is weird because you have all these calls that can eat into that time. And again, like I said, because of that, I had to cut down on the shifts I was taking up, which meant reducing the money I was taking home. But I actually calculated how much I needed to subsist every month, and then I said, okay, I will cover enough shifts to do that for the time that I was dedicating to go laser focused on it. That was my own way. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, that was
About it.
helpful. Martin,
Okay.
it's
You're
not
mute if
covered.
you're speaking.
It's a helpful. I think particularly the aspect of scheduling your time around the things you want to do as opposed to trying to slot those things into. So I think for me, as we were talking, I was trying to think about all the different things I said I want to learn this year. And I realized that I've actually not been serious about them because I've just been trying to juggle things without actually really planning. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Toby, so I know others hand is up, but Toby said he had a question earlier. So I think we should probably take Toby and then Oyo.
Yeah. I know I think Bisola
Yeah.
flashed. I don't know if that was a mistake. So, go on, Toby.
Okay. Like I said earlier, I'm a medical student, University of Lagos, and I started coding around June last year. So I just want to ask you, like, how were you able to break into the tech industry? Because for me, personally, from my experience, I have a couple of months. I've been doing this for a couple of months, and I've been trying to get probably an internship or something to get some experience and have something on my resume. But it's been pretty difficult. So I would like to ask how we're able to break in, and what's your advice for someone trying to get into the industry?
Okay. Um. So back again, my route isn't the typical route of someone. It was a hobby and then became something I wanted to do. So by the time I was making the switch, I think I was quite I was quite all right because I had done it for a while, right? And so I went. My first employer was Andela, so I went through the Andela
Oh,
recruitment process, the take home assignments and all, and I did all of that and the interviews. And but one thing is the first thing one thing that stood out was during my interview, one question they asked me was, what is it that you've done before that we could see? Even though it was supposed to be like an entry level thing and basically come into a boot camp, right? They weren't big on previous experience, but yet at that time they were asking, what is it you've done before? Let's see what you worked at. And that was one of the things that gave some confidence because at that time I had built some stuff, I had experimented, and I had stuff on my phone I could show them, like, oh, I made this. Sorry, I made that, and they were quite impressed with that. So that worked for me. Um, and I have been able to interview people many times at different on different roles, and that's also something I look out for. Can you show me your code, previous code? Can you walk me through it, or can I make sense of it when you're not there? Then, can I even see the quality of stuff you've worked on? I think Toby, you say you're a front end developer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes, yes.
okay, so do you use any particular framework, front end framework?
I'm currently working on I'm working with React.
Okay, so you say, um, while I have a problem with this approach, it's just that hiring is I mean, like with the approach of knowing frameworks and all, but hiring is broken and we have to live with it. So take React and build something substantial, something tangible. Maybe an application that has 3 or 4 pages that does a couple of the things that people need to do in an application. Let's just sign up, sign out, recover password, um, as maybe a landing page. I don't know. Think about it. If it's a bookstore you're trying to build that has all the things that you would expect in a bookstore to have. Even if you don't do it perfectly, it shows that you're able to be, you're not just someone toying with the technology. You are quite professional, and on your own, you can stick it out to motivate yourself to do stuff because that's what this field is about. Especially when you're working from home or working alone, you've got to be able to like tough it out and stick it out and come up interesting problems. And the truth is, when you're solving those problems, you will learn a lot, things you never would have unless you actually built those things, and which will help you during the interview process. Because when they ask you questions, you'll be able to tell them based on your experiences, or even when you got stuck on one thing and you ask questions from other developers or people in the community and did your research. Because the truth is this: most of what we do is Google. But yeah, Google answers to everything. So building something that is quite substantial is bound to help you in your stuff. Package it up as a product, as like package it up as though it's a real product. Host it on a free hosting site like Netlify, GitHub Pages, whatever you choose to use, Heroku. Host it there. Have a public URL that you can send to someone. This is what I built, and host it. Now, when you're applying for jobs, you can have the list of your projects there. As a matter of fact, you can build a portfolio, the website, just a single page that has like icons to your projects and links to that. That is, it doesn't have to be like 20 projects. It could be like four, three solid ones or something. And that is bound to make people take you more seriously when you're trying to break into that. You might not, you might be going for an internship and get a junior developer role. For example, a friend, someone I was mentoring with last year, started designing last year during the COVID lockdown, a pharmacy student. And towards the end of the year, she looked, there was this website company, she looked at their website and then she just took a look at it and redesigned it. And then posted it on Twitter and said, "Oh, I redesigned this page from this website." And then someone from the company reached out to her and said they would like to offer an internship position in their company as an intern designer. Now she's working with motion designers. She's working. She in the UI design team. She has a senior designer and a lead designer that she's learning from, and then there are other designers in the company that she can work with, and that is a huge leap for her. So she's an intern designer and a pharmacy student, and that was because people were able to see her work. You understand? And that's what I'm trying to. This is a kind of role where this is one of the reasons people don't care about your certificate because they care about what you can show me. Show me that you can do something, right? So if you got stuff you can show, people will take you more seriously. And while you and that also applies to freelance roles or real full-time roles. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, thank you. I'm currently working on something like that. And also, I just got my portfolio website up, I think, December last year. So when I'm done, maybe
Good.
I'll just
Then
post it
you,
online.
yeah, post it online and then make some noise online too. Network with people online, post some
Okay.
noise, and then yeah, interview, send out plenty of interviews. Trust me. Your chances of you getting hired generally are way lower than you getting rejected. Like, and this is not because you're not good. It's just the way it's just the way it works. There's so many reasons you could get rejected. It has nothing to do, mostly has nothing to do with you. It could just be the company changed their mind, they're no longer hiring at that point, or maybe somebody applied for you that they like and so they just reject you. Or, the reasons are many, but then it would be easy to reject your application when they don't even have anything to go off of. But when maybe they're already considering someone and then they saw your application and saw the things you built and they're like, okay, this guy might be a better fit. Maybe we should give him a chance. And then you wow them in the interview and then you might end up getting us that way. Do you understand? So that's just my advice about putting yourself out there and getting interviews. Okay, next question, please.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, mm,
By the way,
Oyo,
I don't like being addressed as sir.
All right, all right.
Yeah, first name basis only. Thank you.
Okay.
It reminds me of my workplace, but where we have to use first name basis, and as a doctor, it's just so difficult. Um,
I get it.
yes. Okay. So my question slash comment was what you were saying. I think a reaction to Martin's question about having to do some cover jobs while learning programming. So in a way, it's tied to my earlier question about like having a sort of lifeline. It just made me, in a way, validates or makes me feel um, like I'm in great company, so to speak, because um, the truth is, especially when you spent about 7 years of your life pursuing a certain thing, walking away from it completely can be very hard if you don't have, say, a safety net, or like a lifeline where you can walk away from it and still be able to meet your basic needs and all of that, um, while pursuing your new dream. So I was just thinking about what you said, and also wanted to bring it up in this manner. Like sometimes you have to play both fields. Like you have to keep pursuing medicine in a certain way while also pursuing the new dream or the new pathway you think you want to forge for yourself. Maybe because medicine pays the bills or even helps you fund your new dreams. And how were you able to see, like, did I say combine it or find peace with yourself? Because imagine that at times, especially when it became clearer that you wanted to do software, like you wanted to go into tech, and I'm sure, like, when it became much clearer to you, maybe the times you had to go for cover jobs, you must have been half annoyed, half wondering, maybe just a lot of feelings going through your mind sometimes, especially when those cover jobs turn out to be more than you bargained for. So I'm wondering how you also coped with those moments when it seemed like, oh, see, I found what I want to do, but somehow I'm still stuck doing this thing I don't really want to do because I just have to do it. How did you deal with those moments? I hope I've
Okay.
been able to ask my question clearly because I think I went around in circles in a way.
Yeah, I think I get it. I think I get it. Like while you're doing two things, one pays the bills, the other is what you love, and sometimes the one that pays the bill demands so much from the one you love. How do you deal with that? And Huh. Okay, so let's see. It's always about choosing your priorities right and asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing. For example, if you're doing medicine because it pays the bills have to be paid. And if you do not have an alternative way to pay the bills, you've got to continue doing it till you can't stop doing it. And that's just a fact of life. I am quite fortunate because I didn't have to pay rent. I was living in my father's house and I had plenty of space to myself. Like I always tell people, I said I do not know if I could have made a shift if I had like three or four younger siblings depending on me. If I didn't come from a family that didn't where I didn't have to worry about those kind of things, I don't know if I could have made that shift, right? Because medicine for many families is actually the escape. We finally have a doctor, someone who's going to take us out of poverty. So I don't come from I don't come from that kind of background, right? I'm not I wasn't born wealthy, but I think I was born okay. I raised okay. Okay, so um, so for me, my journey might not be or whatever I have to say here might not be very useful to many people because of our unique circumstances. But for me, it was just like okay, and I made a calculation of how much I needed to survive, and then I had like one or two hospital. As my at the time was just one. So like first of all, I had some savings. When I was burning through the savings, I started picking up shifts, and then I calculated how much I needed, and then took up the shift just for that. Sometimes, of course, um, there were there will be I needed a bit more than that, so I had to take up extra. And like you said, it was especially when you take up shift from your friends, fellow doctors, not directly from the hospital. That shit is terrible. It's awful because you might spend your time for doing work for an amount that just pisses you off. Yes, but it is what you have to do it's what you have to do to reach your goals. I saw a quote last night that says, "Don't how does it put it? Is that don't compare yourself to people to people if your parent if your family depends on you, don't compare yourself with people who depend on their family." Which is why I said my story might not be very useful to some of you. I don't know how your unique circumstances, but I didn't have like a family that was depending on me, so I could take risks. I could say all I needed to survive, buy data, eat is this. I'm not buying clothes. I'm not doing anything. I'm not paying rent, not paying for power or other bills, and I was going to lock myself up and spend tons of hours working on one thing while only going to the hospital to go and do other stuff. Some people can't afford that, so they only do it after work, which is like, okay, I have this 9 to 5, or or um, or people who actually do like clinical medicine who have regular calls and stuff. You might have to like create a timetable and give yourself more free time, more reasonable deadlines. Instead of saying I'm going for this in 6 months, you can say, okay, I'm going to work on this for the next 1 year. Because that's just the reality is that as long as medicine is what's paying the bills and you do not have an alternative ways to pay the bills, you've got to stick it out because it's someone who's alive that has a dream to follow. Like, you've got to be alive to follow your dreams, right? So, and
Yes, exactly.
you also can't, and then also if you're like I said, if your family is depending on you, it's also harder because it's why they say you want to follow your dreams, do it while you're single. The reason is because once you're married and with kids, there are people who are depending on you now, and you can't just get up and say, okay, today I feel like going to go and live in Ghana. That means these kids have to change school. Your wife has to get a new job or decide to be in a long distance relationship when that was not what they bargained for. Or if it's your female, your husband or your spouse in general, or people in your life in general. So these are things you weigh up out and decide. What's like you ask yourself, what's important to me? Mine was just to survive. So if I was required to do more work than what I needed to survive, I was just going to turn it down. But if I had a mother who was sick or who was depending on me to pay her rent, I may not have been able to do that. I may have had to come up with a new solution. So I don't know if that was useful, but that was my situation.
Actually, you helped. Like I said, it just felt good to know that okay, at least I was in great company, so to speak, in terms of playing both fields. So yeah, it helps. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's so many questions that, but they're good questions actually because they help like shed more light on certain things. In the absence of any other question, the last question I would like to ask. So, also personally, I've looked into toying in tech once in a while, not anything serious, but just looking at some things here and there. But one thing I realized is there is like, first off, there is, as you explained, there are so many aspects to tech. There's the software engineering, some say they are front-end designers, back-end designers, data analytics, UI, like there's so much. And so even if you specify and say, okay, I want to go into data analytics, then like even for that, there are so many resources and you don't even know where to start. So for someone who would like to say start up in tech, how would you or which are there resources you may recommend to, or maybe a like say a pathway or a curriculum or something? Because it seems like there's a whole lot and everybody keeps saying the resources are there, the resources are there, but then I look at all these things and you just seem so confused. You're like, where do I even start? You're like, get
Mm.
like advice or the pathway you can suggest.
Okay. So, Martins, you want to mute your mic? Okay, good. Um, so oh goodness, this question is an interesting one, and I don't want to mess it up because I am of the opinion that to get the best advice on what books to use or what resources to use in general, it should be from people who are in the business of educating people or people who are being educated. For example, you want to get what the best physiology textbooks to use. You probably want to ask a physiology lecturer or a medical student which one is best, not someone who is 10 years into medical practice, because they might not have like the up to date info on what books to use or what books are best in today's world. Do you understand? Like, it reminds me of when I was in secondary school. I didn't like physics. I had a terrible physics teacher. And I divorced myself from physics until I failed physics woefully. And I needed to read a book on physics. So I surveyed the books. There was this PNOKK book. That book was, I don't know if it was just me, it was dense. I couldn't make sense of anything. It had no colors beyond the cover. Every other thing was white and black with a big fat textbook. Well, not fat, but white textbook with a lot of stuff. So I looked around and then I found a couple of other physics textbooks that are more modern, more readable, and I was able to use one, and it actually improved my physics performance. Right, the same thing. So recently, someone asked me, "What are the best tutorials?" A former colleague, asked me, "What are the best tutorials to use to learn React?" And I said, "I learned React like 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm not in the I'm not like in a know of what's best to start with, but I can still give general information." So that's the same thing I'm saying here today. Take this with a pinch of salt. Best resources to start with. Start with Google. And just Google what it is you want to do. Let's say data science tutorials, data science websites, which is not a very good query, but it will take you to a couple of websites that have a couple of tutorials. And this is the burden of learning on your own because no one has a curriculum for you per se. You have to stumble through and decide which is best for you, which is that's just that's the downside of learning by yourself instead of having going to a university or a school where somebody has curated the best resources. Which brings me to the other question where I said best people to ask are either people learning it and say, "Oh, this worked for me. This is more approachable," or people teaching it and say, "Okay, because I know what you should know because I'm a teacher. These are the resources I will recommend." So those are the two people that I say you should ask. But if you're asking me who is practicing, what I would say is Google, and then you will find resources and stumble into. Sometimes you have some websites that have like an interactive playground where you can write some code and see your results of your code without having to install anything. That's a good morale booster and can help you decide if you actually like what you're doing before you begin to commit resources and stuff to it. Second is to, or maybe this should have been first, I don't know, is to get to know other people in the community, people doing what you're doing, or people who have started before you, not too long ago, doing stuff, so that you can always ask questions, get recommendations. For example, if you ask, what is the what is your best resource for learning JavaScript online? If you follow a lot, if you follow a lot of tech people, and then you mention their names on the tweet, and they retweet it, you will get a lot of recommendations, right? And some of them you might even say, "Okay, and give me your reasons and why," and then you get to see why certain people are saying certain things. When people ask me that question, I will say, "Oh, use an eloquent JavaScript textbook," and then you'll see responses and say, "No, that book is terrible. Nobody can understand it." And but if you had asked me, that's what I would have said, right? Because that was a book that did it for me. But people will tell you, "No, don't use that book. It's difficult to understand. Even as it's professional, I couldn't go through the book." And I've seen that response a lot of times. So, uh, um, so if I were to say what resources should you use, first of all, first thing, get in touch with people who are doing that thing. Don't try to go alone, please. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others, right? To be honest, this is not a sprint. It's not something you're going to do is commit 2 months to and become good at it. Or anything you're trying to do. You want to go and finance specialist. You want to do ACCA. Don't. It's best you know people in the area, like people. Even if it's just to have study groups, ask questions from, chat with. You understand stuff like so. Have that community of people that you can interact with, that you can get new information from and have your questions answered, and they might be able to like in that moment um give you resources that are tailored to you. For example, right now I can't give you any advice, but does that mean I'm never able to give anyone advice? Of course, that's not true. Sometimes I can give specific for their own specific situation because I'm now familiar with where they are, what they need to know at this particular time. You understand? So my biggest advice would be get in touch with people, get a circle of friends in the area that you're trying to move to, whether in real life friends that you can walk up to their houses, call on the phone, or um, or people you could speak with online. You could say, "I'm learning X," and then okay, for example, my friends tells me yesterday, "Oh yeah, I am looking for books on AI and ML," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's a radiographer. I'm like, yeah, but maybe you want to start with books on statistics first, because those are the foundations of ML, machine learning, and AI. So I don't know. We don't know maths very well. We passed the secondary school, but it's been many years, right? So, bro, you want to take some time on refresher on understand all the statistics and beyond just the basics, and then after that, start layering up the ML concepts and code on it, because then it will make sense. You're not just going to be cramming stuff. So, and that's because he's my friend. He's in my house, and we're talking about these things. And so, yeah, you're getting yourself that circle of friends that you could interact with, which is just something I did when I was learning to code. I got someone who was learning to code, who we learned to code together, and he was a doctor too. He was preparing for his PLAB one then. So somehow, he's a senior software engineer today. So um, that community actually, I think, is like the biggest thing. You might be able to trade resources with each other and say, "Oh, this was very useful to me. Don't bother trying that one. I tried it. It didn't work. It didn't make sense. Try this one." So I think that's like the biggest advice I can give anyone.
Thank you very much. This session has actually been quite helpful. Even I think even for people who are not exactly interested in like venturing completely into tech, I think there are so many things you can apply across the board beyond just tech. So thank you very much. With that, we have come to the end of today's session. And even though we spent about 2 hours as opposed to 1 hour, which was planned, but this was quite engaging. And yes, thank you to everyone for all the questions. Thank you, Shegun, for answering them very detailed in a very detailed way. And for everyone, the recorded version of this session is going to be sent out in the coming week. So if you typically get emails from Dr. Vital Steps, you should receive this recording. However, if you don't, you can send a DM to DW Steps on Twitter or send an email to drvitalsteps@gmail.com. I'm going to put the two names in the chat box now. Yes, so once again, thank you very much, Shegun, and I think we can all just say thank you and we close this session.
Thanks for having me. This was good. All right. This is the part where we're gonna drop off, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Um,
Have a
thank
good
you
one,
so much.
everyone.
Yeah.